And welcome back, everybody, to the eighth episode of the 412 Press Coverage Podcast. I'm your co host, Mario Damiano. We got J Rod here, the other co host, and we got a special guest, Steelers connoisseur, Steelers all knower, Draco Season 412 in the building. Today, we have a very special episode planned for you guys. All Steelers, all the time. Our favorite team, the hometown team, and finished 9-8 on the season. Barely missed out on the playoffs because the Joe Flacco couldn't beat Skylar Thompson. But we're going to talk about the season, man. We're going to talk about the offseason. We'll talk a little bit about next season and what's to come for the Lurs. So, the very first question that I'm going to present to the panelists, we'll start with the Steeler hater, J Rod. Was the Pittsburgh Steelers season this year, all things considered, a success? Your take.
I mean, if you ask me, I'm gonna say definitely not. How can you say a season is success and you didn't even make the playoffs?
Whoa.
I mean, that's just a
Elaborate
statement.
on
That's
that.
just a statement. You didn't make
Elaborate
the
on that.
playoffs. Your season wasn't a success. You didn't
But
make
it's
the
all
playoffs.
things considered, though. All things considered. Rookie quarterback, TJ Watt got hurt for the first 7 games of the season. Terrible offensive coordinator. Offensive line that started off kind of bad. Did get better, but wasn't great at the start. And a defense that for a while there, especially with TJ Watt out, really couldn't do anything. Couldn't, not that they couldn't do anything, but they weren't as good as they were in the back half, especially when Watt was in. So elaborate on that point a little bit.
I mean, you don't make the playoffs. It's kind of like, it is what it is. It's not a good season. I mean, that's the best way to put it. I mean, yes, you guys were close to making the playoffs, but you guys didn't make it. So it's just not a good season. I mean, per successful season, you have to at least win a playoff game. So it's like a season for everything that happened, but I don't think by any means it was, a good season. I think it was okay, like, oh yeah, we kind of know what way we're heading, but it wasn't a good season by any means.
Dre?
Well, I am going to go out and say that this was a very insightful season. That's what I'd say. That's how I could put it. I think, like what Mario said, with all things considered, moving on from Ben, reconstructing the offensive line, TJ being out, us catching our stride in the second half of the season, I see a lot of things that I believe are very good and we could build off of. Even if we still have Matt Canada, I still feel like we have things we could build off of on offense. And we still do have a lot of holes on the team. Don't get me wrong. We got to fill that out in free agency. But I think this season shows a lot for what the future holds.
Yeah, so there's two ways to look at this, in my opinion. Number one, I think at the beginning of the season, I think it was amongst many Steeler fans, if not all, that this season was about the growth and the development of Kenny Pickett, and that was it. Nothing else really mattered. It was just all about our rookie quarterback, seeing what he could do, and most importantly, seeing if he can get better. And so, in that sense, I would say it was a success because even though the numbers aren't necessarily there, and he didn't make wow, incredible plays throughout the entirety of not only the season, but in general, especially late in the season in the games, it kind of took them a while to kind of get started, or it was they did really good in the first half, and then in the second half, the offense kind of sputtered out. But in that sense, in terms of Kenny Pickett getting better, I think it was a total success. I think he's even better than I thought he could have been. Obviously, he fixed the turnovers. He could throw for a little more yards. He could work on that deep ball accuracy a little bit better. But even as the season went on, it kind of when he would throw deep, he would miss really bad, like terribly. As the season went on, he would not only start to hit some of those shots, but even the ones he did miss, it was kind of a little bit closer. So I know that doesn't cut it, but it's getting better. Kenny got better. That's a success. Where it wouldn't be a success is that, well, I guess it could be or not. We made it to 9-8 all the way to have the winning record, but we still missed out on the playoffs. I think early in the season when we were losing and we were losing bad, when we lost to the Bills and when we lost that tough one to the Dolphins and we lost that tough one to the Eagles. On one hand, I was upset because we lost, but on the other hand, I was like, it's going to be okay because we'll just get a higher draft pick. But we go 9-8, and we miss the playoffs. We miss out on some maybe key playoff experience for our players this season, and we end up with the 17th overall pick instead of the 8th or ninth pick. So in that sense, I could see it as being a failure, like what J-Rod said, missing the playoffs. But I think having the 17th pick and our players improving and getting better is still more important than having the 5th overall pick because our players just weren't good and weren't able to get anything done as the season went on.
I agree 1,000%. Everything's about morale. If a team's losing, that's how a lot of teams end up losing their players. Players wanting to leave in free agency and whatnot. And I think that our players right now, outside of like Devin Bush, I think all the players are on board and they're ready to ride for next season or years to come, if
Yeah.
that.
J-Rod, do you have a rebuttal?
I get the progression. It was a good progression season, I guess, for Steelers. They started off bad and they finished off pretty strong. But, some would say, hot topic here that Kenny Pickett really didn't even have a good season. I mean, his stats don't, I don't think his stats do him fair game because I think he had a really bad beginning of the season. But, he obviously, I don't think he played to his full capacity and played to his full ability.
But he
And
shouldn't, though, because he's only a rookie.
I mean, if you want to use that as a stepping stone, that's fine. But he did have 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Just being a realtor, I'm not saying
No, you're right. Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, in terms of his production, yes, it's not there yet. He didn't have a single game where he threw for more than 1 touchdown. But he threw for 9 interceptions, but like we're talking about the progression, he threw 8 interceptions in the first 4 games, and then in the last
Yeah.
9 or whatever, last 7 or however many he played, he only threw 1. So like we talk about progression, and not all 9 and 8 seasons are built the same. When you start off 7-2-1 in 2018, and you finish 9-7-1 and miss the playoffs, that 9-7 season is a failure. In 2019, when even though we had Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph at quarterback, and we finished 8-8, that could be seen as a success because of that. But then again, we were 8-5 and we lost 3 straight games to end the season and missed the playoffs once again. So even that could be seen as a failure. But in this case, when you start off, what was it, 2-6, 3-7,
Yeah.
and 5-8, and you go on to win your final 4 games and you kind of go off on a high note, I think in that case it really is it's about the direction of the team. And the fact that after this season we're at a definitive up and not like a maybe going up, maybe going down, or even that we're not going down anymore, which we were the past 3 or 4 seasons. I think you couldn't have asked for a better scenario ending the season for the Steelers. And yeah, Kenny Pickett's numbers weren't there, but then again, first of all, he should have started from the first game of the season. A lot of
Yeah.
people thought that at the beginning.
1,000%.
He should have started at the beginning. If Kenny Pickett starts the first game of the season, we probably lose to Cincinnati. Well, you can't really play that game, the ifs and buts game. But if Kenny Pickett starts at the beginning of the season, who knows? We might beat the Jets. We might beat New England. Some of those games that we really struggled in that we should have won. Maybe he doesn't throw those 3 interceptions against Miami in the clutch time. So I think in terms of that, yes, that was not starting Kenny from the jump was a failure. But other than that, I think nothing but bright spots for the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree, man. We have a lot of stuff to build off of. I'm excited for the future. I don't know about you, but I'm excited.
I'm super excited for the future, bro. Don't even get me started. So now moving on to whether or not the season was a success or not, let's talk about not just the team, but individual players in general. Jerry, I'll start with you. Who was your offensive MVP for the Pittsburgh Steelers from start to finish the season?
All right. On offense, we all know we averaged about 18 points on offense.
Yeah.
Didn't have much offensive firepower this year until the back end of the season. But if I had to give anybody the offensive player of the year, I got to give it to George Pickens, man. I have to. I just feel like George Pickens was able to throw himself in that number 2 role, and I believe he could play a number 1 role.
He should be the number 1 going forward.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think the way he was able to throw himself in there, his contested catch rate was at a 63. the things he's shown on our offense, I just feel like he deserved the offensive player of the year for our team.
He deserved the offensive player of the year.
On the
Really?
Steelers, yeah.
On the Steelers, yeah.
All right, I'll let Mario do that.
So I like that pick because, like you said, George Pickens is a playmaker. It seemed like once or twice a game, if you threw it up to him on the sideline, he was catching it.
Oh, he made a crazy catch
Um,
every game.
he did a lot, especially considering Deontay Johnson was the number one and was kind of in his way in terms of some of the targets he might have gotten. But for me, I'm gonna go with Najee Harris because
Thank God.
not only do I feel like he's one of our most talented players, but in terms of you know value and when I think of like offensive player of the year, offensive MVP, I think when Najee Harris was doing good, I think the Steelers offense in general was doing good. It allowed them to control the clock. It allowed them to control the tempo. And you can't find more value than having a running back that can break off first downs or when you're down at the goal line, and especially when the Steelers have had trouble getting in the end zone this season, you can hand it off to him on the 6 yard line and he'll punch it in, or he can make catches out of the backfield, or he can make incredible catches in the end zone to beat the Baltimore Ravens. Like I think down the stretch, Najee, as I said in previous episodes, he became who he was supposed to be. Still can obviously improve and get better and be a great running back, not just for us, but just in the whole entire scheme of the league. But the way Najee was able to take over some of those games against the Raiders, against the Ravens, and score big touchdowns for us, I just think when he did good, the Steelers were good. But I like the George Pickens pick though. That's a sneaky pick, J-Rod.
Yeah, I agree with you. Najee Harris, he did hit his stride in the back half of the season.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think he was. I think low key he might have been injured. I mean, he
His
was
foot.
injured, but I think that injury affected him a little more than people were kind of giving him credit for. Because remember, there was talk of having Jalen Warren be the RB1 for a second there. We didn't forget
Yeah,
about that.
for like 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, J. Rob, what do you think?
I mean, my obvious pick is going to be Najee Harris. Like I said, I talk about running backs heavy on this show because I don't think running backs get enough love. Um, he kind of half of the season, I think he was extremely hurt, but he
Yeah,
still finished with 1,000 yards. He still finished with 7 touchdowns. He had the fifth most attempts out of the whole league. I think it was obviously a very rough beginning of the season, but I think end of the season, just like Kenny Pickett, he finished off pretty strong. I totally disagree with the George Pickens things. I mean, yeah,
Totally
he had a good
disagree.
season. Yeah, I totally disagree. There was no way I was saying Najee Harris didn't get offensive MVP for the Steelers. No
I
way.
don't think you can
There's no way.
totally
I
disagree.
totally disagree. I mean, I totally
Why?
there was totally disagreement right
I
there.
would
I
say
mean,
George Pickens is maybe top four in the
I
Steelers offensive
clearly
MVP
think
discussion.
it was Najee Harris. And I'm only saying that because it was consistency is key. After week, 6, he was consistent and he was the main guy on that offensive team when it came to you want to give him the ball, he's going to do his thing. I'm not saying he had George Pickens had a bad season or anything. I just think it's a clear cut when you look at the whole team as a whole. Najee Harris was probably the best player on that offense, and he probably deserved it the most just for his workload in general. Like I said, he had the fifth most attempts in the whole league, and he was hurt the first 6 weeks of the season.
Well, so yeah. So then let me ask you guys this: who would be your honorable mention? Who would be your second for MVP?
My
Dre, we'll
honorable
start with you.
mention would be probably, George Pickens, but still.
Okay, that would be your. So you can't totally disagree if he would be your
Yeah,
second
not a
pick.
I'm
total
saying it's a
disagreement.
clear cut. For me, I'm saying
No,
it was a
yes,
clear
Najee to
cut, though.
me is definitely the MVP, but you can't totally disagree if George Pickens was second. But Dre, who's your second? Would it be Najee?
It'd be Najee.
Okay, yeah,
Coming in third, I say move.
move. So I would go number one Najee. Number two, sneakily, I would say the offensive line just as a unit because of the way they improved and the way they kind of grew. And then yeah, I would say Muth and Pickens are there for tied for three for me. But I think we have a clear who our top guys are going to be, and who knows, maybe Kenny will step into that role as our clear-cut number one player on offense. Obviously not this year, but yeah, I think Najee is just when Najee is good, the Steelers are good, and
Yeah,
he
man.
will be the number one, other than the quarterback. Obviously, Najee's greatness and ability to be great and stay on the field will be key to the Steelers' success for years going forward.
Yeah.
So now we'll go from offense to defense, and we'll go with the defensive MVP for the season for the Steelers this year. I think it's pretty obvious. I don't think there's many.
I think this
Well,
is a consensus.
I think this will be a consensus pick, but there you could go otherwise. But I'm gonna go with Minka. I think he's all around the field. He gets so many game stealing interceptions or clutch interceptions. He can hit a wide receiver, have a big hit, and jar the ball loose. He could force a fumble. I mean,
Block field
he's just
goals.
especially with TJ Watt hurt this year. Obviously, we know who TJ Watt is, but this season in general, yeah, block field goals, coming up with big time plays. He tied for the league in interceptions. He's all over the field, whether it's tackling a running back when they get to the second level or breaking up a pass or he tackling a wide receiver who makes a catch or getting an interception. Minka's just all over the field and no doubtly defensive MVP for the Steelers this year.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's really the other guy that I could put up for debate, in
Go
my
Cam.
opinion, is Cam Hayward and
Yeah.
Alex Highsmith, which
Yeah,
Alex
I
Highsmith
mean
got
that
robbed
was
of a spot in the Pro Bowl, in my opinion.
Yeah.
my next picks. I mean, if I was going to go with defensive MVP for the Steelers, it was going to be between Minka and Cam Hayward, just because of the simple fact that Hayward, I feel like he brought, even in his older age, he's bringing so much, influence to the defense, and just he's still an impact, and he's still
Hmm.
Cam Hayward. Um, I don't disagree with the Minka Fitzpatrick thing. I think he's pretty clear on it. He did have a pretty good season. Um, but yeah, Highsmith, man, he did his thing this year, and I feel like if we were, is he a rookie?
No, he's in his
Year
third year.
2 or year 3?
Year three.
Yeah. So either way, I think he had a really breakout year. Everyone knows his name now because he had a really good season for the Steelers in general, and it wasn't. I don't feel like anyone really expected that out of him. At least not fan wise, but it was surprising to see.
I love TJ, but that spot should have went to Highsmith.
Oh yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure. Well, the Pro
he
Bowl
was
isn't
hurt
it
half the season,
popularity
so to
contest?
speak.
Isn't it fan vote?
Yeah, it's basically a popularity contest because there's no reason why like TJ Watt and Aaron Donald got in. They barely played.
Yeah, sure.
Aaron
Love
Donald
him,
was
like
hurt like way more than half the season.
yeah, he was like one of the first people to get announced to the Pro Bowl. So I mean,
Yeah, but no, I think Cam Hayward's the heart and soul of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. He's the leader. He's the captain. So if I weren't to go with Minka, it would be Hayward. But Highsmith is definitely. I
I
mean,
mean,
his
Highsmith, he led
performance
the
this season.
league in forced fumbles. He was sixth in sacks.
Yeah, without TJ
His
Watt for most
tackle,
of the year too, you have to keep that in
yeah,
mind. He
yeah, and
was
his
the
yeah,
number
tackle
one
numbers
rusher.
weren't the greatest. Like his tackle numbers might have not been the greatest, but
Yeah,
other than that, I mean, forced fumbles, he had 5 sacks. He had 14 and a half. I think he had an all-around breakout year to where now the Steelers fans know his name, and we're going to
yeah.
expect a lot more from him.
So anything else you guys want to say about defensive MVP?
That Minka is the clear-cut defensive player of the year for our team.
So J Rod, do you have anything else?
Yeah,
So paused on the Highsmith talk and we can resume it here. So I'm going to ask you, who was a surprise player from the Steelers this season? I think we might have just been talking about him, but
Ooh.
Dre, well, what do you think?
Okay, all right. I'll give it to Highsmith. I think Highsmith was the surprise player. I did not expect him to have a 14 and a half sack season. Like, I did not expect that. He put up great numbers. But another guy that I feel like flew under the radar is DeMonte Casey.
Oh, wow. That's an
DeMonte
interesting pick.
Casey
Wow.
was playing some real good football. If you guys watched him out there, came from Dallas. He's laying dudes out. Who did he hit on the sideline? Was that Garrett Wilson that one game, the Jets game?
I don't know. I know he was hurt for a little bit and came
It
back, but
was
I remember when he got that pick against the Saints and it was like his first game and it was a great play. And then he also had the pick against Cleveland. That's a sleeper pick. I like that, Jerry. I
Oh,
like that.
DeMonte Casey, he's a baller, man. He's a
Yeah,
baller.
J Rock.
I'm gonna stick with my first pick, Alex Hassman. Like I said,
Yeah,
he had a pretty big impact. I mean, I don't dislike Dre's second pick, but Highsmith is clear cut here. He was a surprise that I feel like the Steelers really needed on defense. Um, you know, it's always good when you don't expect a lot from a person and they give you a lot more to look forward to. And I feel like that's what Highsmith did. Man, I feel like he would have been a problem just in the playoffs in general. Um, but he's definitely going to be a problem next year too. You know, having him and TJ fully healthy, it's going to be dangerous.
yeah. I think Highsmith definitely. I remember when Bud Dupree got hurt in 2020, and Highsmith kind of came in, and people were really impressed with him. I wasn't as impressed because he wasn't getting as much pressure as Bud Dupree was when he was in, but he's definitely grown, and you can see the improvement just not only when he's not getting sacks, but just on the field rushing. I forget what throw it was, but I just saw something on TikTok where he hit like a spin move and forced a tough throw late in one of the games this season. I'm not sure what game it was, but just stuff like that in general. But another player I'll go with Jalen Warren, undrafted free agent running back.
I like
Yeah,
that
Didn't
one. I
even know
like
who he
that one.
was in the first week of the season. I mean, he's a speed demon. He's so important to the offense where he kind of you mentioned Najee having the fifth most carries. Well, last year I think he had like he had to be up there in most carries, but he also had a lot of catches. Jalen Warren was really prominent in the pass game this season and good in the screen game. Very fast player, could go out there and make plays. Like plays that come to mind was that play against the Browns in the last game of the season when it's 3rd and 1 and Kenny's about to get sacked and he kind of flips it to Warren and he just makes like a couple moves and gets the first down. So in terms of him being undrafted free agent and not even knowing who he was until like the first game of the season, I think he was not only a surprise but a very pleasant surprise and somebody we had no idea who he was coming into the year.
yeah. I
Oh,
mean, I think he really took a lot of pressure off of Nagy too,
Uh-huh.
because he's a baller. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, he's a definitely a really good backup man. One day he could be a real good starter on a different
he could
team.
be. Yeah,
But you know, I think you definitely took a lot of pressure off too. You definitely stole a couple of Najee's touchdowns.
yeah.
You know, for fantasy owners out there, but he definitely he definitely is a good baller.
Yeah, Jerry.
because last year Najee, he was on the field like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
That's Derrick Henry type level. That's not like healthy. You want a good number two back, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. And the thing is, like, it went from the Steelers after Le'Veon Bell left, and James Conner was good, very serviceable. But by the end of Connor's run with the Steelers in 2020, we kind of knew that he wasn't going to be our running back anymore. Like,
Yeah.
whenever he left in free agency, it wasn't necessarily a sad thing. But another great thing about Warren is it went from we didn't have a starting running back that we could rely on to now we have Najee, we have our starter. But then after we found Najee, then we needed a quality backup. And now that we have Warren, it's kind of like that phase of the backfield is kind of complete now, at least for the next whoever knows. We'll have to sign Najee here eventually, and then Warren might not be able to stick with us for as long because of how good he said he is. But I mean, yeah, I think Warren will be a very valuable piece going forward for just the entire offense in general.
Yeah, always good that 1-2 punch, man.
Yeah, thanks. But enough with the players we have this season. Let's talk about the players that might be coming to the Steelers next season. Now, in the NFL, free agency happens before the draft. And I'm pretty sure in the NBA, I think the draft happens before free agency. So the NFL is unique in that circumstance to where the free agency period begins almost an entire month before the draft. So, J-Rod, we'll start with you. Who should the players pick up in free agency? Let's start with free agency. Let's say who should the Steelers pick up in free agency? Who should be their most sought after free agent? J-Rod, we'll
Who
start with you.
I don't know who's coming. I think I want to say what is Jalen Ramsey's contract?
Yeah. The Rams are in a rebuild right now. They
I
We'd have
don't
want
to
to
feel
trade
ship
like
for
this
Ramsey though.
out.
I don't
They
feel
would
like
ship
the Rams
Ramsey.
will. Yeah, I don't feel like they'll keep Ramsey. I
they
think
would
there's a
ship him.
high possibility he's going to be in a lot of people's. Like he's obviously going to be, top tier. Everyone trying to get him, no doubt. I don't know exactly who's going to get him, but I think the Steelers should definitely be looking at a guy like Ramsey. Ramsey can lock down a quarter or a third of the field in general. And I think he's a really good, smart cornerback. He plays the game exactly how the Steelers play the game, physical. He's probably the most physical cornerback in the game. So I think he'll fit right in that Steelers defense. And don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest fan of Ramsey's attitude, but he can definitely back it up, and he's definitely a good player. So I think if they're really looking to make it and do that next step on defense, they should be targeting for Ramsey, targeting for him.
Yeah.
Jerry?
Well, this guy, his brother's on the team. He's been linked to the Steelers for a while. He just laid
Yeah.
a big hit in the playoffs. Tremaine Edmonds, the 6'5", 250-pound linebacker.
You
If
think the
we
Bills
could
is
get
going to let him go?
their money is tight. Their money is
Get the
tight.
hell out of here. There
That's
ain't
why
no
he's getting.
way.
I'm telling you, that's why they're talking about him coming to the Steelers.
Yeah.
The money is tight in Buffalo. They have a lot of players to pay.
There's one thing I will say about it though, is he's definitely a big money linebacker, and I feel the only reason that the Steelers don't need him is because we have a lot of good linebackers that aren't high money linebackers. Like they're really good for the price that the Steelers are
No,
giving
we
them.
don't. No, we don't.
I don't know. I think the
Devin Bush
Steelers
is
always.
gone.
Devin Bush is
I'm
out. He's
here.
out.
I'm here for the Robert Spillane praise sometimes, but he might be
I
good
think
in the
Spillane's
run game.
solid.
But in the
I
pass
He
think he's
can't
game,
solid.
cover nothing.
in the pass game, Dre, you remember the open practice, Dre? You
Yes,
remember
he
the
was
open
getting
practice, getting
cooked.
cooked every play. Miles Jack is older, and I would replace Miles Jack with Tremaine Edmonds in a hot second. And who's this Marcus Robertson or Mark
He's
Robinson?
good, but like I need to see more.
So here's the thing, right? For the Steelers, what they do in free agency will then predicate on what they should do in the draft. We don't know. I can't sit here and tell you who I think they should draft until we see what happens in free agency. In terms of Ramsey, it depends on what the asking price is for him. Because honestly, considering how expensive he is and how he's getting
He's at
older,
least a he's
I
at
don't
least a
know if
$20 million defensive
I don't
back
know
though.
if I would give up a first for him. I'd maybe
Nah,
give up one of the seconds or the second round, the 49th pick, but I'm not giving up a first for
You want to
Ramsey.
give a first for Jalen Ramsey? Are you stupid?
No, too expensive and
we
too old.
already
I'm not
have
giving a
the
first
highest
for him.
paid defense in the league.
Yeah,
Bringing him in makes it worse.
I'm not.
Dude,
I'm not
that was
giving it. He's
dumb.
like 28 years old. Tremaine Edmonds is only like 25. I'm not giving up a first for Ramsey.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Trey Edmonds would be good too, but just like you said, money is a big thing. And if you think you're going to get Trey Edmonds on a steal, you're not. He's
No,
going to
we're
be at
not getting
least
him on a
a.
still. But I'm
That's
saying
what I'm
I'd
saying. He's
I'd
rather
going to
rather
be a
give
big
him the
cap
money.
I'd
value.
rather pay Tremaine Edmonds to be our middle linebacker and draft a cornerback than the other way around and pay
Dude,
their
you can't. But
29-year-old Jalen Ramsey and
no, no,
draft a
no.
linebacker.
Listen. You can't
Yeah.
just draft cornerbacks though. Like this isn't just like we draft a quarterback and he's going to be good. He can be burnt toast, just like Eli Apple was when the Jazz drafted him. He could be a straight burnt toast situation.
No, that's
You
true.
know Jalen. You know who Jalen Ramsey is going to be, and like I
That's
said,
true.
But
he would fit right in on that defense. I think he should be the main target. I mean, I don't disagree with the Trey Edmonds thing at all.
Yeah.
Trey Edmonds is a hell of a player, but I think if you want to turn this defense around, just freaking in general, coverage wise, it changes your whole scheme with a guy like Jalen Ramsey on one side.
But the thing about Ramsey though is not only would you have to pay him, but you'd also have to give up draft capital.
yeah,
Whereas with Edmonds, you only have to pay him. You don't have to give up the draft. So just
Well,
in
that,
terms
that
of
leads to the next question, though,
in
right?
terms of Ramsey or Edmonds, just alone, then I think we can have a bit more of a discussion and an argument. But just based off of the all other factors, and
because
another thing
Ramsey's a
too is
trade.
in terms
Ramsey's
of
That
a
leads to
me.
the
trade.
next question, though. Who will we draft? Like, there's really who are you drafting in the draft? You
Well,
guys
so
didn't
wait.
even. Some of you guys be there. I don't think I really pay attention. But who are you guys drafting in the draft right now?
So
That
hold
like
up.
you wouldn't give up a pick for. It does, like
Can I speak?
good.
All the things that the Steelers do in free agency, not the draft, but in free agency specifically, is depends on when they think the championship window starts. Do they think that we are ready to compete for a championship next year with the way our offense is and with the way our defense is? Or do they think we still need another year of development? If the Steelers are all in and truly believe next year is the year we are going for a championship, then I believe that we need to sign vets like Tremaine Edmonds or maybe trade for a guy like Ramsey. But if they don't think the championship window starts next year, then maybe signing guys in free agency isn't necessarily the move.
I think it. I honestly think you missed the playoffs this year by a hair, so next year you're going to go all in. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Now,
I
I
agree.
don't see what do you guys need? Like, what do the Steelers need?
So here are the Steelers'
Linebacker.
biggest needs in order. Well, this isn't in order, but this is what I'll say. And we can put it in order. I think we need another a tackle. I think Dan
A
Moore is
left
good,
tackle.
but we shouldn't settle for good.
And
We need
that's not
great.
something. And that's not something I would go ahead and draft in the draft. But go
So
ahead.
so left tackle,
Okay.
interior D line. But here's a
Yeah.
sneaky guy I think we could use to fix that. Remember an old familiar face by the name of Javon Hargrave, Philadelphia Eagle?
Uh,
I love to see him back in the Steelers
bring
uniform.
him right back.
But so we got a left tackle, interior D line, middle linebacker, cornerback. Would you
What
agree
the
that
hell's
those are
wrong
the
with the
four
D
biggest
line?
needs for the Steelers right now?
What is wrong? You tell me what's wrong with the D line.
We have an aging
The
interior
interior
line.
D line, Jonathan. The interior. Don't. I know we were stopping the run late, but don't forget about some of the earlier games when people
We
were
were
running
getting
all over
cooked.
us.
Getting
Don't forget
cooked.
about that. Yeah.
I mean,
Cam's getting
I get
older.
it, but what I'm saying is we got to look at it as okay. You said who did you say? Interior D line, left tackle.
Interior D line would be fourth on that list. Out of all those things, I think the interior
Okay, so
line would be fourth.
tackle, cornerback, and what else did you say?
Middle
Middle
linebacker.
linebacker.
Middle
Those are
linebacker.
the
Okay,
needs. Those are what needs addressed in the draft slash free agency.
here's like just rookie drafted in general. I think you can find a really good linebacker in the draft. I always believe that you can find a good linebacker in the draft. Um, there's not a lot of big names in the draft this year, linebacker wise though. I mean, you can find a tackle in the draft,
Yeah.
but historically, linemen do not come out the draft ready to play in the NFL. Historically, they do not. They always struggle. So if you're looking for solidness,
Who? What is
you
that
have
based
to
off of?
go
Is that based off of Andrew Thomas?
based off of anything.
Like,
Name one.
what are your other?
I mean, every time the Giants drafted an offensive lineman in the draft, never worked out. I
What about
mean,
other teams?
who did the Cowboys just draft early in the season?
Teron
He wasn't.
Smith.
I mean, early in the season, he wasn't really like crazy. He progressively
Okay.
got better, but just historically in the draft, linemen do not come out
You are
ready
right.
to
You
play in
are right.
NFL. That
I
is
would
historically.
still, I would still with the Steelers. I would still draft an offensive tackle with the 17th pick. That's what
Well,
I would do.
okay, that's totally fine. That is totally fine, but you're not looking. You guys have the 17th pick. Like I want you to think about that. Go look at who you guys can draft with the
We could still
17th
find
pick.
a good offensive tackle,
Look,
Jerry.
Go look at the draft.
I'm about to
You
throw
got to look
y'all
at the board.
for a little loop. I'm gonna throw y'all for a little loop. We got the 17th pick. You know what the Bengals did? I know they had a higher pick than us. They drafted Jamar Chase. Everybody said get Penei Sewell. You need a lineman. This that. I could see us with that 17th pick getting Kenny some familiarity and drafting Jordan Addison at 17.
Jerry, it's so funny you say that because every single day I like that idea more and more and more. Every day I like the idea of Addison coming back. But
You
then
see what
again, it's
happens
like
If
with
you
Joe
got to draft
Burrow.
another wide receiver, that's a fucking waste.
You see what happens with Joe Burrow.
no, that's a very good point, Jay. And I like that. And like I said, every day more and more I like that pick. But first of all, we have to trade Deontay.
It would have
Yeah,
to
that's the
happen.
thing.
Yeah.
You guys would have to get rid of him. Like you can't just draft another wide
Oh, I'd
receiver
get rid of Deontay
in
in
the
a
first
heartbeat.
round.
They could have
But that's what I'm
Deontay
saying. In the
for a
first
sixth
round,
round pick. I don't care. We don't
Yeah,
want Deontay.
Deontay has to get traded if
all
that
right.
happens.
Hold on. Let's step back real quick. Let me finish my points. So who else was it? It was linebacker, tackle, or no? Well, you say linebacker, right?
Middle linebacker,
Middle
tackle,
linebacker, tackle,
cornerback.
cornerback. So in the draft, I wouldn't draft a tackle first round. No.
Why not?
I'm not gonna lie to
I
you.
just went over this.
No, let me just say this. Let me just say this. I don't watch enough college football to know all the. I know the guy from Ohio State that the Steelers like, but he might.
It's
I don't. I don't
Johnson.
watch enough college football to know. I'm just saying based off of the needs, and just you know what you don't understand is just because the tackle's not ready to go in week 1 or week 2, who's to say he won't be ready to go in week 6 or week 7? Number one, and
Yep.
number
All
two,
I'm
he's
saying
way
is if
cheaper,
you
and
want to,
he's a
yeah, he's
cornerstone
cheaper.
left
That's what
tackle
I'm
to build
saying.
around.
If you want to, but if you want to make a splash impact first, that's something you can get in free agency with a guy who's been in the NFL and knows it already.
But
I
we
mean,
want a
don't
young guy.
Building off of free
you can
agents
get
with
young
the O
guys
line,
in free
especially,
agency.
is hard.
At the left tackle position, I personally would want a young guy to play with Kenny for most of his career, not a
Someone coming
30-year-old
in.
left tackle who knows how many years he'd have left. I personally would want to take the risk. And here's what I'll say. We've talked about this before. The Steelers have cheated when it comes to the offensive line in terms of
Yes.
drafting. Kendrick
Yes.
Green was a third or fourth round pick. Dan Moore was a fourth round pick. The left guard, who's the left guard? Kevin Dotson, fourth round pick.
We're bullshitting. We're
Shooks
BSing.
of Core for a fourth round pick. Like we have to stop cheating on the line and trying to find these gems late in the draft. Just draft an offensive tackle in the first round this 1 year. Something that people have been saying for us to do for years now was to draft a
Yeah.
left tackle in the first round, and we haven't done it. Draft the left. We have
Right.
two
I
first round
mean,
picks, not one but two. Use that first pick on a cornerstone left tackle that you could see being a part of your offense for years to come. And you still have the 32nd pick, the 49th pick, and the 80th pick. Those are three more guys that can truly make an impact on your team year one.
Yes.
That's why I would go with tackle in the first round. That's why.
like I said, I mean, college football wise, it's really just like I think everybody does the same thing when it comes to the draft wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, first round, and then
But
everyone just drafts fucking the lineman, second round, third round, whatever. But like I
not
said,
really.
you
Not
go
really. Some of
ahead.
the best some of the best linemen, like you're more likely to hit on a lineman in the first round than obviously you're more likely to hit on a lineman in the first round than in the later rounds.
Well,
Yeah.
that's any player. That's not a statement. That's any player.
Especially a lineman, because the linemen are so important and people don't realize how important
But
a
that's
good
any
offensive
player.
line is.
Any player in the draft, you're more likely to hit in the first or second round, bro. That's not like a
Yeah, so
statement.
let's take one
That's
in
a
the
fact.
first round. Like,
We
stop
might
taking
as
them in
well
the
go
fourth
for we
round.
might as well go for that tackle in the first round. Might as well. Peter
All right.
Skoronsky, Paris
Anyways,
Johnson,
I
Broderick.
don't know if you guys look at your mock draft yet, but here's what you guys are looking for. Christian Gonzalez from Oregon is what the first round pick for the 17th overall
He's good.
Steelers.
He's
That's
good.
what you guys are looking for. Like I said, I think Jalen Ramsey would be a much better pick, but that's up for debate. And then the Steelers' second overall pick, or first round still, the Steelers' second overall pick. Hold on, I just lost it. What do we pick second? What is it? 20?
32nd.
Is it? Hold on.
Yeah, we
I
basically
know.
have a first round pick.
I'd still rather go young and left tackle and go vet on defense than the other way
Yeah.
around. I think the tackle needs
Yes.
to be a young guy to
The
play with our
Steelers
young.
draft 32nd.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 17, 32nd, 49, 80. And then if we trade
So you guys
Deontay,
have
we might have, who knows?
who do you guys have? The Eagles pick?
No, it's because the
No, the Bears
Dolphins
pick.
forfeit their pick.
Dolphins
Okay.
forfeited, and the Bears have the first pick in the second round. So technically it's a second round pick, but really it's a first because it's 32nd.
Okay, so let me see if I can find that one. I can't
But
find that one. But looking at the mock draft, I mean, no doubt a tackle will be on the board. But here's my thing. Like I said, when it comes to linebackers in the fresh out of college, these linebackers aren't like linebackers back in the day, fucking 90s. These linebackers are coming out of college 6'6", 250, NFL ready size, and all they need is a little bit of coaching. I think you guys can hit on a linebacker just fine. And when it comes to tackle and cornerback, I honestly think you guys should be looking free agency and trade.
The
My
reason why I
number
say
one
no free
thing,
agency on the O line is because whenever you get into that carousel of like flipping in and out offensive linemen from free agency, you screw up the chemistry. The offensive line is one unit. I want to bring in a fresh body that just got drafted, build him up, get his chemistry up with the whole O-line, or maybe
Yeah.
some pieces will get filled out. Mason Cole might
But
not be
that's the
there. James
thing.
Daniels.
You guys aren't saying who. Like I understand, you guys might not know who,
Because I
but
don't watch enough
who?
college football.
I'll
Me
tell you
personally, I don't
Okay,
watch
the
enough
three
then
college football to
tackles.
tell you, but I'm saying
you can't say
position-wise, we
that
should go
then.
left tackle.
I
You
will
can't
tell you
say
the
that
three
then.
tackles that we should have in sight.
There, Dre
Go
got
ahead.
me. Go ahead, Dre.
Paris Johnson Jr.,
Okay.
Peter Skoronski, and
Okay.
I forget his first name, but Broderick from Georgia. Those are the three tackles we should have our eyes on.
There you go.
Skoronski and Paris Johnson will most likely be gone. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm kind of in a crossroads.
Broderick's not supposed to be off the
Who's to say we won't trade
the
up though?
22nd.
Yeah, we do that.
I mean,
Who's to say we wouldn't trade up if we see a guy that we really
trade up
want?
to get a tackle?
Yes.
Why are you disrespecting the trenches right now, bro?
Yeah,
What is
what?
wrong with you? You are a lineman.
Dude, do you look at the mock draft? What are you guys gonna trade up
It's
to?
because
12?
look, you're saying that because it's not the flashy pick. It's not
Like, I
a
can't believe you right
receiver.
now, bro.
It's
Yes, we'll
not
trade up to get a
a
lineman because
running back.
what Dre says is exactly right. We want to build camaraderie. We want to build the line up.
Yes.
We
You
want to
know what we
build.
did
We
with
want to have.
Pouncey and DeCastro and
Okay.
Villanueva.
Okay. Listen, what are you guys trading up to? Like, you guys have to pull up the draft
We could
right
get up
now.
to like 10.
We can get up to
Okay.
10. We
To what?
have
Draft
so
Paris
many
Johnson?
picks.
To draft Paris Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not gonna argue. I'm not mad with that pick. I'm not mad. I wouldn't be mad about it. But who are y'all giving up? Y'all gonna give up 2 first-round picks to go up and draft Paris Johnson?
We'd
If
give up
we
our
think
pick and probably a second.
If we think he is that guy and we have to trade our 17th and our 32nd pick to get him and they do their homework and they know he's the guy, yes, I would do that.
Nothing like a good franchise O-lineman.
Because at the end of the day, 2 mediocre players or 2 solid players versus 1 great player, I'm taking the 1 great player any day.
You know who you guys sound like? You guys sound like the Giants front office. Yeah, we're gonna draft this offensive lineman, the 3rd-round pick, and he fucking sucks.
And
Every
guess what?
time.
Guess what? With Evan Neal, he's looking like he's having the same arc. I'm not saying he's gonna be as good as Andrew Thomas, but he is having the same arc as Andrew Thomas. Not really good first year. Might come back and have some stuff to build off of, and he could end up being a cornerstone right tackle for you guys. And you guys are set
I'm
at tackle.
glad. I'm so glad you guys are in the Steelers front office because I doubt they're
What do you
thinking,
mean?
I'm going to trade 2 draft picks to draft a guy.
If they think he's our guy, yes.
Yeah. If
No
he
one's doing
looks
that.
like that guy,
No one's doing
get that guy.
I'm just letting you guys hit. No one's doing it. I do not believe that they're going to trade 2 picks away to draft up 10 picks earlier.
Have you ever heard
Or
of Joe
7
Thomas,
7
Jonathan?
picks earlier. 7 picks earlier.
Have you ever heard of Joe
You're
Thomas?
disrespecting the
You're-
trenches right now,
we're
and I
trying to-
don't
we're
like
trying to
it.
say-
This is not
we're trying-
okay.
No, listen, you're trying to compare
You're
someone to Joe
disrespecting the
Thomas.
trenches, and it's not okay.
I'm not saying
I'm not
that-
disrespecting the trenches. I'm saying you
You
can sign us
are.
in free
You're
agency.
disrespecting
You
the
can sign
trenches,
in
bro.
free
This is not
agency.
going to
No.
trade up 10 picks to draft a lineman. Bro,
I
don't
said
stop
you can sign in free
disrespect.
agency.
comparing what the Steelers do to what the Giants do, okay?
Yeah.
Stop comparing that.
It's the
Because even though
NFL
the Steelers didn't have a playoff win for 6 years, you guys didn't have a playoff win for 10 years. Stop
I
comparing us
guess
to you
you got
guys.
a
We don't
playoff
care
win.
about you guys.
None of that. None of that.
Yeah.
Who got a playoff win then? Oh, okay. Who
Yeah,
didn't
who
get the
just got
playoff this
blown
season?
out
Oh,
yesterday.
Who has
okay.
more Super Bowls? Who has more Super Bowls?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Oh, reliable. You didn't think I forgot about that, did you?
Now
Yeah,
I
no
didn't
one
forget
forgot
about
about
that.
that.
Oh man, this is bad. I'm not
Yeah.
disagreeing with a pick like the guy from Ohio State. I like that pick. I think he's going to be good. But like I said, I think you can find a young guy in free agency. That's all.
You don't want to
Let's-
get in that carousel, man.
Let's agree to disagree. But I will end it by saying I like the Jordan Addison pick, though. Maybe we have to see. Like
Yes,
I said,
I do.
everything in the draft depends on what happens in free agency. So
Yeah.
we'll get there when we get there. But now
And
that was
you're
very
saying-
good
hold on,
debate.
hold
That
on.
was very good.
Wait.
I love
Is
that.
Jalen Ramsey not a number one? Could he not be a number one target?
Tremaine is.
I would go Edmonds because Edmonds, like you said, if we trade those draft picks to get Ramsey, then we might not have draft picks to trade up.
You guys even know
Exactly.
Trey Edmonds' stats this season?
Let me know.
I don't need to know his stats. I know he's one of the best players on a Buffalo Bills championship caliber team.
Yeah.
I don't need to know his stats.
All I know is he's better than Devin
Okay.
Bush. That's all
Yeah.
I know.
But
Okay.
like I said, let's agree to disagree. Let's move on to an even another controversial topic. Matt Canada will be returning as the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator for next season. I'm going to start off with this one because I have a bit of a tangent or soliloquy I want to go on here. First of all, the Mac. So there's the argument of the Steelers would rather go 9-8 every year than have bad seasons and then become great. And that brings up the argument of, are the Steelers okay with being mediocre? The Matt Canada keeping him as our offensive coordinator shows me that the Steelers are okay with mediocrity, that they don't want to be great, that they would rather go with what works kinda over taking a risk and going for something that might be great. And we've seen that with other players. We've seen that with other positions in terms of what we talk about the left tackle. Yeah, Dan Moore's good, but why would you settle for good when you can go for great? I get it that the offense looked better as the season went on. That was partly because of the offensive line. It was partly because Kenny settled in. It was partly because Najee got better. The offense with Matt Canada is very basic. There's no creativity. The wide receivers aren't running any special routes. When I watch these incredible, great teams offensively, the 49ers with their offense and their weapons, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs. There's so much stuff going on and it's so intricate. And that is what greatness is. That's what's going to win you games. You shouldn't have to win playoff games or regular season games in spite of your coach. You should win them because of your coach. And whenever Matt Canada, your bland offensive coordinator who people have had problems with all season, forget what you want to say about, camaraderie or chemistry with Kenny Pickett or whatever. I think bringing back Matt Canada in the end will hold us back. And I'm disappointed to see that he'll be back. And I hope that they prove me wrong. But based on what we've seen and the evidence we've had, he's been far too mediocre. He lacks creativity. It's very basic. And I think if it affects Kenny Pickett and his career trajectory, it will be the biggest tragedy in terms of on the field or whatever that the Steelers have seen in a long time. And we drafted Artie Burns in the first round. Jerry, what do you think?
All right. So the main thing people have been saying about Canada being re-signed is, oh, it's a big thing with like what you said, familiarity, making sure Kenny is comfortable, all this and that. But whenever it's like what you said, when I watch the Chiefs play and they're doing like ring around the rosy, they're doing like backwards lateral running back pat, like I wish we could do something like that. Like I wish we had a creative play caller. And I know it gets tough with the OC. You don't want to get Kenny into a coaching carousel that ruins careers. Prime example, Marcus Mariota. That guy had constantly a new OC when he was in Tennessee. It didn't stop. And look at him now. He's not the guy that we thought he was going to be. Keeping Canada, it is a bad thing. Like you said, it feels like we're settling for mediocrity. We're settling for 9-8 seasons just to keep Tomlin's streak going of his 500 or over record. But in my opinion, Matt Canada should not be our OC. It should have been Frank Reich, the old Colts head coach.
Yeah.
But that's a story for another day. But bringing Matt Canada back, I think I just think it is holding us back. It's gonna hold us back. Hopefully not, but I don't know. Maybe Kenny gets more familiar and he's able to make Canada look better. But that's for next season to tell us, man.
Well, for Canada to improve, he needs to look in the mirror, and the entire Steelers coaching staff and players need to come together and decide how they want to run the offense. Because Canada's style alone will not get it done. I mean, we've just seen it. First of all, the main thing that needs to stop are the runs on second and 15, the 2-yard pass plays on 3rd and 15. The main thing that I hated seeing about the Steelers, not only last season, but I can recall a few from the season before, like you obviously in the Giants Vikings game when Kirk Cousins threw the check down on 4th and 8. I feel like the Steelers did that way too much. Not on 4th downs, but like when it's 3rd and 15, and instead of actually trying to get the first down, you do a run play or you do a wide receiver screen. Taking more chances in general, I think the Steelers need to do offensively. And like we said, that kind of starts from the top and it starts with Canada. And you talk about not getting in the coaching carousel, which true is a very good point. But I think if the Steelers could find a good offensive coordinator like Frank Wright, like you mentioned, then you get Kenny a new offensive coordinator in year 2, and then you never look back. Whereas you kind of keep Canada around, and maybe you fire Canada after this year. Well, now Kenny's 2 years deep in, or 2 years in, and now instead of changing after his first season, he has to change after his second season. But then again, like you said, we'll have to see what happens, and I really hope Canada proves us wrong because I think coaching really matters way more than the average person or fan would know.
Yes.
And having a
Coming from
top
a
tier
guy that played
offensive
football,
coordinator
yeah.
could totally change things because like I said, you should win because of your coach, not in spite of your coach.
Yes. As a guy that used to play football, having a bad OC or having any sort of bad coach
Yeah.
can really affect the game more than
J-Rod.
people know.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with Canada going, but I think since the offense turned it around, it made him look a lot better than everyone knows he is.
Yes.
So that is the biggest problem when it comes down to it. The offense being really good into the season and turning it around made him look way better. You
Yes.
can't. It's just
Yes.
like Tomlin. You can't argue with being successful. Like that's just how it is. You can't. Like you can't fire a coach. Oh, you went 9-8. You can't fire a coach because of that. Like, I mean, you can, but it just looks stupid. I think my biggest picture is coaching wise, you have to look at who's on the free market to go and get a different coach. I'm not too certain about. I don't know contracts for coaches. I don't know who's out there right now. I think there's a couple college coaches whose contracts are coming up that are really good college coaches. I don't know exactly who, but I do think Matt Canada's offense is really basic. It's kind of like you know it's just basic. I mean, it's not
There's
something
not
any
too much
special.
going on. It's pretty it's run plays and in passes to
Wildcats
people running a
sometimes,
streak. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
end arounds. He does the same stuff, and I feel like their offense is so basic. Like I was
Yeah.
watching the Jaguars game versus the Chiefs, and the Jaguars ran the exact same screen like 4 times in the game, and I'm surprised a defensive end didn't stick out their hand just a little bit and pick the ball or tip it. Like they ran the same play, switch
Yeah.
sides
Yeah.
4 times.
Yeah.
So it's just one of them things where it's like you guys are kind of basic. Like it's not a super flashy offense. And I won't compare no one to the Chiefs, the Dolphins. I won't do that because those guys are, geniuses when it comes to play calling. I won't compare nobody to the Rams. Like even that would even be a good pick. I don't ever feel like Sean McVay would stop being a head coach to become an offensive coordinator.
Oh no.
Nah.
But I think his contract is up too. And man, would it be nice to have him as an OC.
Well, he already said he was returning to the Rams, but here's what's interesting. And yes, the Steelers' offense is basic. There's no you need unpredictableness.
Our flair is the Canada sweep.
That's
When
it.
the
Canada's
Jaguars when the Jaguars sealed the game against the Chargers when they ran that running back play to Travis Etienne with 3 running backs in the backfield on 4th and 1. That was when they made that play. I was so shocked. I had no there was just I don't think anybody was expecting that.
Yeah, I thought it was a
And
T-Law
a lot
sweep.
of times the Steelers have predictable. You've heard the hot mics when people say we know what they're running, like they're running the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
That's not okay. The best play call of Canada's career was the jet sweep to Connor Hayward against the Raiders that sealed that game. That was like the only time we've had that, like ever. Other than
Hmm.
that, it's stuff that people can easily sniff out. Even people at home that have never played a down of football before in their life know what's about to happen. You know what I'm saying? And that's just
Yeah.
what could come back to bite us. Especially when you play these great defenses the farther you get into the playoffs. Being able to sniff out plays will hurt us.
Yes.
But then that begs the question in terms of Mike Tomlin, because obviously, no player or somebody who's ever played football has ever had a problem with Tomlin. It's always the people who don't play football. But people have had their skepticism with Tomlin. Yes, he's only won what, 3 playoff games in 10 years. I think going forward, once we start making to the playoffs with this group, then we could really start to judge him on that. But the question is, would the Steelers, considering the direction the Steelers are going offensively, would it be better for us to get rid of Tomlin and hire an offensive-minded guy to be our head coach, or to just keep Tomlin around and try our luck with an offensive coordinator? Jay, let me start with you on this one.
I think our best bet is to just stick it out with Tomlin, try for OC. The Steelers are historically known for loyalty. Sometimes it's annoying that they're known for that, but they are. They're known for loyalty. We've only had 3 head coaches in our whole existence. So with Mike Tomlin, he is a player's coach. That's the direction a lot of coaching is going in nowadays. A lot of players' coaches, Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, those guys, younger guys that understand players and the game, not just football. I think if we test our luck with an OC, everything works out. Tomlin's a great guy to still have in there as a head coach, and I wouldn't want to get rid of him.
J-Rod?
I don't. Like I said, I don't think Thomas should be going. He's a winning coach. As simple as that. I mean, yeah, he didn't go to the playoffs and win, but there's not a lot of people I could see replacing Tomlin that would change it.
Yeah.
Boom. Winning seasons and playoffs. I don't think there's a lot of coaches in the NFL better than Mike Tomlin with better experience with a better resume. Who are you gonna unless you're getting, who? Like I don't
Unless
even
you're
know.
getting maybe Sean Payton.
Yeah, well,
Like
that's what I was. But so,
but even then, Sean
yeah.
Payton, like I don't know. Like I don't see anybody else. I don't think Tomlin. He's obviously the head coach, so it's always going to fall on him to be the problem. But I think he's the Steelers head coach at this point, and that's just he's going to be the Steelers head coach until he decides one day that he retires or he has like 5 losing seasons in a row.
So here's what I'll say. First of all, yeah, the Steelers need to keep Tomlin because the players love him, and you want to avoid the coaching carousel because that is the
Yeah.
worst thing that could ever happen. We've seen it happen to organizations, the Houston Texans.
Giants.
Whenever teams, even the Giants for a minute there before, whenever teams get stuck in that coaching carousel, nothing but bad things come from that. But here, I'll just go over the problems that people do have with Tomlin. It's like we said, settling for mediocrity, being 9-8, which isn't necessarily his fault. We've we've had good regular seasons in the past, and when we haven't been good, there's normally like been reasons why. Aging Ben gets hurt. But the issue with Mike Tomlin that he's on a short leash about is it's the playoff games. And obviously everybody knows we haven't won a playoff game since 2016. We've only won 3 playoff games since I think I think since we went to the Super Bowl back in 2010 or 11 or whenever that was. But it's not the fact that we're losing playoff games, it's how we're losing playoff games. And disregarding the loss of the Chiefs last year, because I mean, we hobbled into the playoffs and we played the
Yeah.
team that the number 2 seed, that doesn't count. But against the Cleveland Browns and against the Jacksonville Jaguars, those are 2 games at home that you need to win. 2017, we could have went to the Super Bowl. We could have won the Super Bowl in 2017. And then in 2020, we probably weren't going to win the Super Bowl. But home games against teams that you're better than and not being ready to play. It is on the head coach to prepare players to play and be ready. And whenever you come out against the Browns and it's a snap over the quarterback's head, safety on the or touchdown for the Browns on the first play of the game, and then it's just a snowball down and down and down. When you're down 28-0 at home against the Browns and you're down 21-0 at home against the Jaguars, even if you play better than those teams for the maybe 3 quarters of the game, you can't start off bad like that. And then again, our defense, especially in 2017, our defense was terrible. 2019 or 2020 was just an absolute. I mean, that was just a travesty. I can't even
That was
think
really
about it.
bad. That was
But
really
in
bad.
the future, with our team now, whenever we start going to the playoffs, if we play in games where we are better than the other team or we should win, if we come out not prepared to play, then I think some serious questions will be had for Mike Tomlin and him as a coach and him as his future for the Steelers head coaching position. We'll give him a pass for what happened in the past because it happened. It's over. We have a new direction, a lot of new players, especially offense. But going forward, when it comes time that we start becoming perennial playoff contenders, if we're not winning playoff games and better yet losing games that we should win, then that becomes a bit more of a problem.
Yeah, I agree. Playoffs is where you want to win at, We can have these 500 seasons all we want, but like at the end of the day, it's about winning playoff games and getting a Super Bowl.
Yeah. And like we said, that's like the mediocrity thing, right? When did being 9-8 every year become okay? We want to win playoff games. We want to win Super Bowls and championships. Not saying that. Once again, we're not saying we fire Mike Tomlin because like we said, players love him. He's the best option for the Steelers to have a head coach. But as the year goes on, and when we start becoming a team ready to go to the playoffs again and make some noise, then I think the lights will be on him and they'll be very bright. And I'm interested to see what's different about that. For our final topic, though, of the episode, because we are running out of time, just quick prediction for next season. What makes next season a success? What our record will be? J Rod, go. 30 seconds.
Depends on who we all pick. Depends on who they pick up. It's obviously a build year. Got to see who you guys are building around. Obviously, offensive wise, I don't think there's a lot of things to build on in offense besides the offensive line. I think you guys are really good with the wide receiver spot, really good with the tight end spot. Um, Offensive line is the only thing you can really work on. Orlando Brown Jr., he's out there. Go offer him. You don't got to give him the $16 million that he's getting paid over there. He knows. I think he knows he won't get paid $16 million again. But like I said, there's a lot of options. Defensive wise, got to go get a cornerback. Big name, Jalen Ramsey. There's a couple other big names in the draft that you can take a glance at. But I think if you want to make an immediate impact on defense, you have to get Jalen Ramsey because he will do an immediate impact on that defense.
Dre, go.
All right, keys to success. Kenny Pickett, his development, him becoming the quarterback that we know he can be, him being able to level up his game. He showed that he can. Now it's time for him to put it together and improve upon what he did last year. Our keys to success on the defensive side of the ball, free agency, getting key free agents and draft picks and draftees, making sure we draft the right position, making sure we get the cornerbacks, making sure we get the middle linebacker. And my record prediction for them going into next season, anywhere from winning 10 games to 12 games.
For the Steelers next season, they need to have an immaculate offseason. And we have talked about the pieces are there. There are free agents available, trade candidates. We have the draft capital. We need to have a great offseason this year and really put our team in a position to win. We have Mike Tomlin, and as we've discussed, that guarantees you 9 wins. Having Mike Tomlin guarantees you 9 wins. I think next season, the Steelers can win 1 or 2 or 3 of those close games they lost this year, a la to the Jets, to the New England Patriots, to the Dolphins. 3 of those game types next season, I think we could win. That way, I believe the Steelers will win anywhere from 11 to 12 games next season because we're guaranteed 9 wins, and I could see us squeaking out 2 or 3 games we shouldn't win.
I don't disagree, but I do think it'll be a 10-7. 10-7 season. But if the Steelers want to be great, they gotta spend some money this offseason.
Yes,
You gotta
I
cut your losses,
agree.
get rid of who you want to get rid of, and make a splash of free agency because that's all it is. I think that's going to be the biggest factor. is what they do in free agency. There's a lot of free agents out here that, aren't happy with the teams that they are on, and they will be glad to go to a different team.
The Steelers have the potential to be great. The pieces are there, and there are pieces out there that we could bring in to really fill in this puzzle. And I think the Steelers, it's not like we have no hope. We have more hope than I think we've had in a long time. And if they play it well this offseason, if they draft, they're going to have to get lucky. They're going to have to hit on their draft picks. But if they can, I think the Steelers will be great next year. And I think making it to the playoffs and winning a playoff game, anything other than that, this season will be a failure next season.
An immediate impact. Like I said, don't look for it in the draft. Free agency is right there. Trade. Don't look for it in the draft. That's all I'm gonna say. There's a lot of people available that are really good. Spend some money. Don't be cheap about it. If you want to win, don't be cheap.
Jerry, lasting thoughts?
Yeah, Gerard said it. If you want to win, don't be cheap. We got to get our guys. We got to get the people we need to eventually become that Super Bowl team. And I believe we can get there in the matter of 3 to 4 years. I think we can get there. It's just a matter of what we are going to do with like the situation with Canada and maybe Mike T. Like it's about us at this point.
Yeah, man. Steelers are on a trajectory for greatness. We got the young guys offensively, to fill in some spots on the defensive side of the ball. But other than that, man, Steelers can be great. We are going to be great. Kenny will lift that Lombardi trophy, and all the pain and agony and suffering will be worth it. Jonathan, stop laughing. You're a Giants fan. You guys suck.
Giants fans, man.
Once again, we just want to thank everybody for tuning into this episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. This is over an hour's worth of Steelers content. Can't wait for free agency to start. Can't wait for the draft. Can't wait for the mini camps and all the offseason stuff. The future is bright. And once again, everybody, thank you so much for watching. There will be another episode in the coming days talking about the divisional round of the playoffs. But other than that, thank you for watching, and everybody have a
hold on, down.
Hey,
hold on. I want to know everybody's opinion before we go. Do you think what's more of a dynamic push, draft or free agency? Go ahead, just tell me your opinion.
Draft.
Why?
Draft.
Why?
Because I think signing players that will be cheap for 4 to 5 seasons, and if you hit on them, they can be real impact players. They're young, they can play more, they're more fresh. And when you sign a free agency player, not only do you have to spend the money, they might be, when players who play in the NFL for a long time, they get an ego, so maybe they don't like their role. Melvin Ingram, if you guys remember, he signed for the Steelers in free agency, and he was upset after like 2 weeks and wanted to trade. So I would say the draft.
Yep.
What's your reasoning, Dre?
Draft, because basically what Mario said, man. People have egos. People don't want to play certain roles, and whenever you're a young guy, you're just trying to get in the league. You're just happy to be there. I know
young guy
some
on cheap contract,
egos, but young guy, cheap contract. If he hits, that's huge.
In that way, you can have a draft where you have 4 to 5 impact players out of that draft, whereas you're not likely to get a free agency class where you're signing 4 or 5 guys that are going to be great within their contract.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I see you guys' reasoning, but I think if this Steelers team wants to make an immediate impact, they got to go free agency big this year, bigger than the draft.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, man.
All right. Well, so now that, I guess we'll finally conclude our episode. Once again, have another episode coming soon. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and take it easy. We look forward to more Steeler talk.